Hey everyone, Jim Burke, welcome back. Thanks for stopping by. It's been a while since I've done a critique video. I thought it was time to do one now, and I've got a video here from Nick Slabokov, who's flying an Extreme Decathlon through the 2019 IAC Intermediate Known sequence. So let's take a look at what Nick is up to. Okay, starting with the WAGs. The first figure in this sequence is an avalanche. We have two camera views here with Nick. He has the fixed mount above his head and then one on the wing. That should help us out. And I guess we have a nice ball we can look at here. Easy to see right there, so we can watch his progress. Okay, pull looks good, and now we're going to have a float and then a snap. So on this, you really need to have a distinct pitch, and in the decathlon it's hard to do. I'm going to watch that again, but I'm not seeing the pitch being very distinct. It's almost like you're pushing right after the pull, like too soon before the snap happens. Also, let me watch the hands again. Yeah, it's tough. I think keep playing with it. The third quarter looks like you might be pinching a little bit also, but it's not easy to do a great snap in a decathlon. I can't really tell from this vantage point exactly what's happening with the nose. It's a little hard to me to tell, but we need to see the airplane come up and then have a pitch separated from the roll. And that you use the same technique I've mentioned before in other videos. Stick comes back, rudder goes in, basically the same time, and then hook the stick over. And you really have to be at about 90 miles an hour, 95 miles an hour, something like that. I can't remember the limit, but it's a very short, a very small window where you get a really good snap in a decathlon, even the Extreme Decathlon. So keep playing with it. And I'm sorry, I can't give you better help. It's just too hard to see exactly what's going on there. I can't see your feet. I can't really see your hands very well. So we're going to move on. But that is the avalanche. I think the third quarter is probably a little pinched. You need to come off that snap and then float a little bit and then bring the stick back again to where it was when you started the loop. That exact same position that the stick was in when you started the loop, that's the position you want to find after the snap roll. And you float a little bit, then go back to that exact same position you started with. Okay. Continuing on, figure number 2 is a hammerhead, which will be 45 up. And I like how the stick is moving there. A little bit better light on you now. I can see your hands moving. That looks good. A little bit of playing with the line, but it's pretty good. And that's a little positive, otherwise pretty good. And, okay, technique is pretty good on the hammerhead, but the plane is rotating a little bit in roll. I can see that. So just keep watching that. Let me watch this vantage point here. So the plane actually gets a little more positive. And that makes sense because you're a little positive on the line. So as you do the top of the turn, you're positive and the plane wants to fall with the nose going down this way because that's what gravity's making it do. So just make sure you're vertical. If you're vertical, that'll probably work out better. I think you're at the right airspeed. I think your technique was otherwise correct. Okay, figure 3 is pull vertical. And it's going to be an end figure. And maybe a little on your back that time. Keep watching your verticals. Make sure you're vertical. Now we have a 45. Looks good. And a little bit of too much pushing the nose there in the middle of that roll. I want to watch that again. The 45 is good both before and after. Something feels a little funny inside the roll there. I can't put my finger on it. Again, it's a vantage point. Maybe throw me off. Very short line there. I wonder if we can get more of a line. Oh, you know, now I think I'm hearing the throttle maybe coming in and out. Yeah, now I see. So I wonder if that's necessary. I'm going to go back and see where you chop the throttle. Before the 45. Okay, well, I never found it necessary to do that in the decathlon. Maybe you need to do that, but I always was able to keep it within V&E. Now, having said that, I was pretty hard on my decathlon, so maybe don't do what I did. Who knows? Okay, now this is going to be a spin, and the nose is too far down. This is a good vantage point. Now, in some cases, this vantage point is not awesome for what I'm trying to do, but in this case, it's great because I can clearly see that the plane is very nearly level, and we really want the plane to be. Oh, you know, I got a new plane on a stick, which is my airplane, so I can use that. So we don't really want the plane to be that level. We want the nose to be quite a bit higher. It takes a lot of nose up attitude to fly level at such a low airspeed. So when we push off of these, when we cap off, we want to push very briskly like you did, good job, to an angle that's more like this. This just looks too level to me. And you can get too steep and then the plane starts to sag and the spin won't work out. So there is a perfect amount of angle that you need. But I think right now you're just too level and it will show up in the spin. And now the throttle's chopped, which is good. Then bringing the nose up. Okay, and that's that entry. So that entry, we have to have three things happen at once, which is the yaw of the aircraft, the roll of the aircraft, and the pitch of the aircraft at the same time. And the pitch has to be down because it's supposed to be stalled. When the plane stalls, the nose will naturally go down, right? In this case, what's happening is because you're level, you're raising the nose, raising the nose, raising the nose, and then you're adding the rudder and raising the nose and rolling the airplane, and it's moving like this instead of like this. The way a spin should start is something like this. I'll do it towards you so you can see it better from that camera angle. It should do something like this, right? All three axes moving at once. If the nose goes up, it's clear it didn't stall. And that's what I see in this entry. So people in decathlons, they always struggle with this because it is very easy to get the plane to mush. In fact, if we look at that halfway point for this, the first half roll to spin, kind of be an indicator. In this view right here, the fact that you're negative there, right? So the plane has gone up and then over, and now it's sitting like this. Instead of what you would expect if the plane was stalling, then at that first half roll, you'd be nearly vertical down. Maybe a little tucked, but you wouldn't be quite this much. It's very common for people to struggle with spin entries in a decathlon. It's very normal because the plane will, if you get too slow, the plane will mush, which means it's sort of falling like this. And at that point, you can do whatever you want with the rudder, and it probably won't do very much because there's not a lot of airflow going over it, and the prop wash is now blasting over the top of the rudder instead of meeting the rudder. And you end up with a situation where the plane just kind of falls for a while and eventually picks a direction, and you're no longer in control. You're a victim at that point. So it makes sense to kind of help it along. But you really need a stall to get good scores. So you just have to be more patient. You have to find what the plane likes. It takes some experimentation. But just hold the nose up there. Keep bringing the stick back as you're doing, a little slower than you're doing right now, with the nose higher to begin with. And keep bringing the stick back. What I like to do is kind of stage it back a little bit. Instead of just smoothly bring it back, I can kind of feel then when the plane's really at the limit. And I save a little bit of stick travel at the end. Instead of trying to get to every last bit of stick travel. And I wait until the plane is actually stalling, until the nose is actually coming down. At that exact moment when it starts to go down, then the rudder goes in and not sooner. Now, as you move farther along, you will find that it can be useful to force a spin entry, and there's ways to do it that the judges don't seem to notice. But that's not something you should be thinking about right now. It's just not good technique for you right now. So that's what I recommend. Okay, now it's supposed to be a 1.5 turn spin. And the stop looks pretty good. Might be a little bit aileron in there. It should be pretty much all rudder. Next is it's figure 5, which is an Immelman. It's a full roll on top. So half loop up, then a roll. Okay, and it's better if I'm not sure what airspeed you're at the bottom here. It'd be nice if I could find out. So I can't tell what that airspeed is. That's airspeed, right? Yeah. But it really, just from looking at this, it looks like you're not going fast enough at the bottom of this. I can't tell. I'm not trying to get you to go faster than B&E, okay? That's not the idea here. Don't abuse decathlons. Fly them within the limits. Be gentle to decathlons. But you really want to, in order to do a good Immelman in any airplane, you want to have pretty much as much as you can have at the bottom, and you want to pull a little tighter than you would normally, much tighter than a loop. You want to keep the G's on as you're carving. So I'm seeing you get very slow on top with the nose high, and then it sort of just kind of starts to fall into this roll, which is not what we want. We really want to pull it around, stop it, and then roll. Now, we don't want to stop it for more than a tiny little beat, but it should continue. It should carve into the inverted position, and then the roll begins. It should not be blended. It's not okay to blend the arc of that pull with the roll, and that's what I'm seeing happening here. And if you are out of energy, then that would be one reason why that's happening. And then again, you're sort of a victim. You want to have enough airspeed that you can really control that. Yeah, the nose is just far too high when the roll starts, and you're just so slow that you're almost at a stall speed. You're almost stalled throughout that. Okay, next figure is figure 6, which is an S. Now right here, I understand why you might want to be slow, because you have to do this pull down. But you can have another 10 or 20 knots up there, and it won't make much difference to you as far as your G tolerance goes. It won't be a big difference, so it's okay. This all looks good. It's good 45. I feel like that's got quite a bit shallow towards the end of that line, but otherwise was a good line. Let's watch this here. So now here's our angle, which is good. It's certainly not steep. It definitely just got a little shallow, like you started to anticipate that you were going to float. And I would say a little bit more float here at the top of that 5/8 loop. Now figure 7 is another hammerhead, pull vertical, and this is good because the first hammerhead you were positive, and I think you were positive, but you got okay there, and we got a little bit of roll towards the end of that. Let's watch that again. So, you know, when you're watching these videos, you can see all kinds of stuff, and I'm not expecting anyone to be perfect. I see stuff in my flying too, so we get to nitpick. But as I'm watching this up here, I see roll beginning before the stall, and this one here also had a little bit of that, like the nose kind of coming down in pitch instead of just yaw, and I think this time it's because there was some roll happening. Okay, Humpty, pull vertical. I like how you have two hands on the stick. You have good stick movement. It's a lot of good stuff. Again, you got a little positive and fixed it. Okay, quarter roll, the wing dropped in that quarter roll. So not a great vantage point, but I can see the horizon move. Here's the horizon. I can see it move up as you roll, and that just means that as you roll, you're not staying vertical. So the first step in a vertical roll is to be vertical. I don't think your verticals are quite vertical in any of the vertical lines I'm seeing. They're close. But if you have and that's okay. But when you have that kind of mistake, and then you start quarter rolling or half rolling or three-quarter rolling, you really see any little imprecision in your vertical line. And I think that's probably what we're seeing here. And I think it's showing up in your hammerheads too. So keep focusing on vertical lines. Make sure you're really vertical. And don't forget to look out both the left and right side once in a while and make sure the horizon is even on both wings so you aren't dragging a wing during the pull. If we had a better camera angle, we might see better if you are even maybe rolling a little bit when you pull. Possibly the horizon. If we watch the horizon, we'd see that it's rotating instead of just going down, right? So you might want to look at that stuff as you're flying next time. Make sure you're getting a really good vertical pull. It's very easy to fool yourself. If you don't have someone on the ground, you may never know if you're actually vertical. Just an unfortunate fact of life. It's part of competition aerobatics. Okay, vertical down looks good. Still a little bit of roll happening there. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I do see it, so pay attention to that. Next figure is a goldfish. It's figure 9, pull 45, and then a 2 of 4. That looks a little shallow. Good. Good, looks good. And pull, that's too tight on top. Need a little more float there at the top of the goldfish. And then don't want to let up here. Looks good. And 45. Well, it's shallow and maybe short. You might be able to get more of a line there, but that looks like a pretty good scoring figure. Now it's a 90-degree roller with one roll inside. Wow. Okay, that looked like the nose was really high. Maybe it's just the vantage point there. Let me watch this again. So I'm watching this view on the upper right here. Okay, I gotta tell you, I can't even make sense of what I'm seeing in that view. Hold on a minute. Yeah, you're... Okay, that's like... Am I crazy, or is that kind of a half tumble, half roll here? I want to watch this one more time. I'm just watching this view now. Okay, we're good, and now we're pushing the nose so far up. Well, let's see how fast you're going, because you must be stalling. Oh yeah, you're really slow. Okay, and I'm watching the airspeed now. You know what's funny is I haven't seen a roller I like yet in any of the videos I've gotten. I've always been very picky about them. I think maybe I had one I kind of liked. I don't like any of mine either. But this one I just can't quite exactly explain to my brain can't explain right now what I'm seeing. But I'm seeing the plane getting to the first half of the roller pretty good, and then the nose coming up very high in the second half of that roller. That's what I think I'm seeing, and maybe somebody can comment and tell me I'm seeing it wrong. But given that, that's not what it should look like. It really needs to look like it's a roll and a turn, and the nose cannot go up and down really according to the rules at all, which is impossible. So we can't do that, but we try and minimize the amount of what we call scalloping during that maneuver, right? So we aren't doing something like this, because that's a very easy way to make it happen, like this, right? What we want instead is something that looks like this. That's the ideal. Can you do that in a decathlon? Yeah, I mean, you can get really close to that. But the trick to that is to have enough airspeed. I'm looking at that thinking you're just so slow on several of these figures, but particularly that one, that there's no way to execute. And I think you're probably going to be a much better pilot through all this stuff if you can get a few more knots. And I'm not talking about going crazy. You have the right idea. You should keep it slow at a lot of these places. It's correct. What you're doing is a strong idea. You don't want to be trying to rush through things in a decathlon, but you need enough airspeed that you can get through the figures, and I don't think you have it there. So I'm not going to try and diagnose the roller too much. I think you're just too slow, and when you push, you're just getting the plane into the stall very deep into it. And I think you said in your email that this was your first run through an intermediate. In that case, it's a very good job. Actually, it's a good job anyway. I should always encourage you, but you can probably tame down that roller a little bit with more practice and more airspeed. Okay, so themes for you, I think, are the verticals. The verticals, as I said, I don't think that any of them are quite vertical. Very important that you get vertical before you do anything else off of a vertical line. Vertical. And then the rolls, I did not pay attention to the wags. I don't know about how you're working the stick during the rolls, but I think that it seemed like they're pretty good. The only thing I noticed was when you were too slow, like at the top of the Immelman, and that's one where I thought looked funny, kind of like the roller looked funny. So I think that your rolls look pretty good at this point. I'd like to see some more of them, so from a better vantage point, so I can help you with those. The spin, I mentioned already that you can't pull the nose up to enter the spin. And I think the other theme is just airspeed, just knowing what airspeed you need for these figures and hitting it, being on it every time and seeing it. And I would say, don't worry so much about the box limits right now. Worry about making really good figures. Don't worry about staying in the box or where you are in the box. Make great figures. Find the airspeed you need, even if that means you take a break and come back in to get more airspeed. It's a decathlon. That's normal. That's okay to do that. Be okay with that. Show people what you can do with the airplane, even if that means you have to take a break. Don't feel bad about that. That's what you just do sometimes. And really, there's nothing more fun to me than beating people in a lower powered airplane than they have. It's just a great time. So think about that. Think about the extra challenge you're taking on and just run with it, enjoy it, and take a break and still beat them. That's a lot of fun, right? Okay, Nick, great. Excellent job. Thank you so much for sending your video in, and thanks for your patience. It took a couple weeks to get to you, and there's several I just can't get to, but I like this one because it's a decathlon and it's flying intermediate. That's fun for me to watch. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for coming by.